Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Hear Our Voices. This is your host, Khadijah D, and this is Hear Our Voices, where we tell stories, give resources, and change the narrative of homelessness. So we have a little bit of housekeeping, guys. We are in need of people to tell their stories. We also are in need of people to who has resources, who want to give resources, and we take stories from all the states in America. Long America owns it. We'll take stories from you. The criteria for telling your story is be a guardian over a person who's in shelter, and they have to be under 21, which is PATH guidelines for New York City. Also, they don't have to also be in shelter. It could be if you live on the street, if you live in a car, if you live in somebody's home and that was not your home, but you lived there for a time being, which is displacement. We take that. If your family was struggling to keep on the lights or anything like that. I think people think of homelessness as just one way, as on the street. Not I think, I know. People think of a person who's on the street digging out of garbage cans. No, families usually are the invisible homeless because they fit into society so well compared to other homeless populations. They usually are put in shelters, and states which don't have shelters, people are living in cars, in parks, but usually because parents don't want their kids taken away, they they really assimilate into the community. So if you are a person who would love to be in a podcast and say, that sounds like me, I would love to have you on. In any episode, we are taking people on a rolling basis at all times. So we'd love to have you again. It's all the place America owns. We will take your story, and we just want to hear what your experience is and how, granted, I don't really have the resources for other states, but hopefully a person from your state is listening in and they can say, oh, that's my person. How can I make the system better? That's our hope, right? We want to make sure that people who empower, because I'm only one person, right? We want to make sure that people in power can really hear what we're saying and make a difference for somebody. It might not even be for you right now. It might be a person who's like a future you and they can get help better. So that's what this podcast is all about, and making sure that everybody's voices are being heard. Because when sometimes you're in the situation, your voice feel like it's not that big, but when you come out, you have more of a voice. So this is why we do the podcast. Please follow us on social media. We are trying with that. We're trying to get some stuff on the back end um put out. So that's what we're working on right now. We have Instagram. We have TikTok. To be honest, we are mostly on Instagram. But everything will be in the link tree down below. I'm pointing like you can see me, but you can't. So everything will be in the link tree down below. If you want to see my page, my personal page, and follow the host, you can. Everything again will be in the link tree, and it'll show you to my link tree, and you can follow me on all my social medias. I do have TikTok, I have YouTube, and I do different content on YouTube, my actual life if you want to see that. And I tell people about homelessness and how to kind of get over homelessness or get resources for homeless, I should say. So follow me on those particular things. Okay. Thank you for listening, and sit back and relax. Get some popcorn. I just finished eating mine from the movie theaters yesterday, and listen to what we have to say. So we have a guest as always. I don't like doing this thing alone. I like to have somebody there so I can talk to, but I can't talk, as you can see. I think it's about 2 or 3 minutes already, and I haven't stopped droning on and on, so I can talk. But it's always great to have a guest on the show. Today we have Dr. Diana Rosenthal, and she is a grad student at NYU.
I'm a postdoc.
Yes, so postdoc. So sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. Yes, you can definitely correct me. And she will be coming on to tell you about a project that we both work on, actually. I do a lot of different things I should say America. Most of my work is in New York City, and I do some stuff in Washington. But this is one of the things I'm working on, and I want you to hear about it. And if you fit the criteria, you could definitely get involved. So yes, Diana, tell us a little bit about what you actually majored in college and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Wow. So we're going way back.
Yes.
So when I was in college, I went to NYU Gallatin, which is the School of Individualized Study. So
Yeah.
essentially, I made up my own major. And I looked at public health, public policy, um, medicine and the intersection with art and art history and like globalization, global health. So I look my sort of, I guess, colloquial title was The Art of Medicine, Medicine of Art. And it was very interdisciplinary. And I think that sort of creative thinking really shaped me moving forward in my ability to um, look at things differently and to problem solve and work with many different types of people from different backgrounds. Um, and I've always been volunteering in the nonprofit sector since, I was a child. So for me, it's just second nature. Um, and then for grad school, I decided I wanted to do even more than that. And I decided to do an MPA, a Master's in Public Administration, at the Wagner School in Health Policy and Management. And that was extremely helpful and continue building on my research background. So I started research at a really young age. I actually got to start it in high school because I was accepted into a program through the New York Academy of Sciences where I learned very early on I did not like doing lab work, meaning I did not like dissecting on rats and stuff. So I preferred working with humans and having that personal contact. So that's why that um, changed that trajectory really quickly. And then I moved to the UK and did a second master's in demography and health, followed by my PhD in inclusion health at the UCL Institute of Child Health. And all my work recently, including my PhD work, has been focused on um, children who've experienced homelessness and really co-developing solutions with the community. And when I say the community, I mean the people who are actually experiencing homelessness, and then the people who actually work with that population. So healthcare providers, social workers, housing experts, etc.
Got it. So this is how we got to this. So you know from what you heard, she's very qualified to do this project that we're working on. So the project's actually named Shelter. And can you explain what the acronyms technically mean and how we're going about doing this project?
Sure. So co-developing shelter um, is actually a co-developed name that we came up with our families with lived experience and our committee of professionals and key decision makers. And it stands for Safe, Healthy Environments and Local Transformation for Equity and Resilience,
It's a long name, I know.
which
But
is why we call it co-developing shelter.
yes,
It's sort of the ideal. We want it, that's what we're striving for is those safe, healthy environments and, transformation.
I could say from the beginning of this project, honestly, I just call it Shelter. It is easier
Yeah,
to me
that's
to
fine.
remember, but the actual name is Co-Developing Shelter, right? And this project is very unique. I feel like a lot of projects in the past, I think, since 2020, and I've been doing this work since 29, like 2020, really. And a lot of people are taking on people with lived experience, but a lot of organizations are just tokenizing the people with experience, right? With a lot of things that I do now, I make sure I use my voice to make sure they're not doing that to me. But sometimes people don't have a loud enough voice to make sure their voice is being heard, right? But with Diana, I think with her background, is makes it much different than other groups that I've been in, that she makes sure that the people with lived experience have a voice and that they're being heard and how things are being developed or being said, so yes, Diane.
Thank you. And what's important for me though is like I always acknowledge that the families with children are the experts. I don't have the lived experience of being in shelter with a child under the age of 5, and that's our primary target. And one of the reasons I focus primarily on that age group is because under fives are really the most vulnerable, since that's the sort of key critical period for, optimizing growth and health and brain development.
Yes, it sure is. If you don't know, I was in shelter. If you are new here, in case you haven't like touched on the other episodes, myself was in shelter in New York City for a year and change. I was homeless more than that because I did couch surfing, and my daughter was under 5 when it happened. I think we left in 2018. She was born in 2015. Um, February 17th is actually when we moved in 2018 to our apartment, which I still live in now. And this project is dear to me because it definitely hones in on the population that I was a part of. And that part in life is very, important. You learn how to say your first words, you learn how to talk, you learn how to walk, you learn how to eat properly. Because these are stuff that doctors ask parents, right? They ask them, is a child picking up the Cheerio and how they're picking it up? How do they use a spoon? Because sometimes depending on which hand you use a spoon with, you can tell which hand you're writing with. Or how's a child placing their hand on the spoon? Are they walking straight? Are they walking on their tippy toes? These are vital times in a child's life that they're doing these things. And being in shelter is a traumatic experience, even though parents try to not make it affect their kids. But for a lot of parents, and I think I would say most parents, most people who end up in shelter, that experience do shape who you are and how you become and how you do things. For example, myself, because my daughter was born homeless, I try to overcompensate now, and she's only 9. And I try to give her everything, but giving her everything also can make a child who's spoiled, who's not grateful. I'm not saying my daughter is like that, but I try to be very mindful on the line that I told because I feel so bad that I made her come into the world. I was like, like she didn't come into the world as normal. She came into the world not having nothing. And I try my best to not have that happen to her now. So it shapes a parent a lot, especially if the child is much younger. I feel like teenagers, I feel like it could be the same problem, but I feel like they have a lot of skills and more street knowledge by then. When they're a child, they literally can't defend themselves as much as an older child can. But I think no child should be in shelter, no matter what age they are. People in general shouldn't be in shelter. We should be doing housing first, but that's not the podcast for this. But but yes, those times are very important in a child's life. It shapes who they are. It shapes how they're gonna be. And granted, things can happen later on in life and make them veer off course, but these are the milestones, as they say, when the doctor asks you, what milestone is your child at? If they're kind of delayed and they're like, oh, what's wrong with it? Like they want to see what happens. And if you went on the podcast the first year, we had a person named Sarah. Her child was delayed in walking because she lived in a shelter, and she didn't want her child on the floor because the floor was not clean. Most shelters I've been in, most of them have carpet. Some of them don't, but most of them have carpet, and those carpets are not that clean. And to have a baby who mostly crawls, they put their head in the floor, they put their head in their mouth, you don't want that for your child. So it's like you are delaying them to protect them, but they have to have those milestones. And because in the situation they are in, they can get what they need. So talk about a little bit about this project. It's actually a survey, guys. It's a whole big thing, right?
Yeah.
And talk about that.
Well, I was just going to agree with you about, not letting children crawl on the floor. Like that's extremely common, and not even just the US. Like I saw that in the UK as well. And it's really important. Like we asked that type of question as well in our study, and sort of make it really important to ask families about the concerns about the actual physical environment, and really make sure they understand that the blame is not on them, for not letting their children go on the floor, you know, because it, that has more to do with the shelter. They're trying to protect their child in one way, even though if it causes a delay, if that
Exactly.
if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
So I always try to make sure that we're not putting blame on the parent. Um, so this study is a 4-phase study. The first phase was we met with families with lived experience. Khadijah is the chair of that committee. Um, and we decided to refine our research questions, which had previously been informed by a webinar that families had participated in externally. And essentially, I just came up with this list of questions from this webinar, and I said, okay, what's the greatest priority out of all of these? Because we can't solve all of them in one project. Because
Right.
homelessness is very multifaceted, and you know, there's no silver bullet, so to speak, right?
Right.
Um, and the issue that kept coming up was what sort of barriers exist in these sort of physical and social environments within shelter that could potentially prevent children from optimizing um, health and well-being while in shelter. And this is for children under the age of 5. So that's what we sort of focused on. And we decided to keep our population for people currently in shelter and people who had already exited. So that way we could see if there was any sort of discrepancy over time and see how shelters have changed over time, possibly due to policy. As you know, there's lots of policy changes recently that have changed, especially in shelter conditions or services that they have to provide. That
Right.
was one thing. So
Mhm.
like local law 93, where they have to have mental health providers in shelters. So that's one thing. Um, what else are we looking at? And then we decided to break down this topic even further and do mixed methods. That way we were sort of looking at this topic from a very uh, multifaceted perspective and balanced perspective. So when I say mixed methods, I'm saying we're using quantitative methods like a survey and then qualitative methods like an interview. And we're right now doing the survey portion. We're
Right.
trying to actually get 133 people to do this. Um, we need 100 more to go. So we're really trying to push for that because people actually, there really isn't a data set in this area for children under the age of 5. And one of the really huge problems for children under the age of 5 is that there's really inconsistent reporting across many like government databases and official databases. So they'll collect data on children 0 to 5, but not under 5, or they'll only collect data on children ages 0 to 3. So then they're missing a crucial year in between. So that's why it's sort of important that we collect this data because it really doesn't exist. And the topics we're sort of looking at, of course, are the background socio-demographics, the family's housing history. We're looking at the physical environment. So if there's any sort of environmental hazards, is there mold? Is there, vermin? But also, do they have access to green spaces? Um, is there enough space, to to have play?
We talk about
And
medical, I think also, and
yeah,
food. Yes.
we talk about like the social environment, so how often your child gets out and goes and does activities and meets people, sees family and friends. We talk about child health quite a lot, and we talk about the child if the child has any chronic health conditions, disabilities, and anything that the child has been delayed with milestones. We talk about, let's see what else. I'm off the top of my head. Um, Access to different health services and if you've made use of them. We talk about mental health as well of the child and as well as the parent because we believe that the parent's mental health is also critical to maintaining um, a good the good health of the child because if the parent's mental health is not good then it's going to affect the way they parent. And we also ask about nutrition, and we're really interested also in food security. And in terms of the environment, also we're also interested in like safety of the environment. When I say safety, we mean people's perception of safety, like other people within shelter, but also safety in terms of are things child-proofed, etc.
Yes. So as we said before, we're looking for people. We're looking for about 100. And if you think you fit this criteria for a guardian, with a child under 5 who's in shelter in New York City, because usually I know I don't want to get the podcast rules and this rules mixed up. We're only looking for people in New York City.
Yeah, New York City. We ask you to confirm your zip code in the eligibility.
Yes.
um, lived in a shelter in New York City with a child under the age of 5, either currently or in the past. The cutoff date we have is 2008. Um, but you have to be a parent, guardian, or caregiver. You can't be the child who's lived in shelter. You have to be 18 or older. The survey itself takes about 20 to 25 minutes. You get a $30 gift card upon completion. And at the end of it, there is an option to participate in an interview. It's about 30 to 45 minutes long, which is virtual. And that's also, you would get a $40 gift card upon completion. And the ultimate goal of this as well is we'd use the results of this is really a community needs assessment. And we'll use this to co-develop a tailored community-based health intervention with both our advisory committee of families of lived experience of homelessness, as well as our key professionals and decision makers. So this is really important because we're really finding out what are the needs within the community, both what assets are available, but also what are the deficits.
Yes. So if everything, will it be email? We're not giving out the link, so don't look for that. But we're giving out an email down below in the description box. So if you know anybody who fits that criteria, or if you yourself fit that criteria, I know a lot of different people listen to the podcast. If you think that person falls into that, email them. Again, it'll be down below in the description box. It'll probably be the first thing out there before the link tree, before everything else. That'll be the thing on the top. I'll write a short little informational about it, and then you email that person, and they'll assess what they have to assess, and then they'll send you over what needs to be sent over. And then on the completion of everything, you heard the steps before. I don't have to repeat it, and that's how that will work.
And we're very quick about compensation. You get it within a few business days. And the email address you contact us at is very easy to remember. shelter@nyu.edu.
You heard. So definitely do that. I hope that you can help with this. And also, if you want to listen to, like, also join the podcast and do that, that works too. And we would love to hear how we can help, because hopefully in the future this can help out different things. I know it sounds like a small sample group, but you could still make the changes in policy or how things are done in shelters based on these findings. Um, so yeah, I hope this can help anybody who can help, and hope anybody who's listening could definitely help us get it out there. You have anything else to add, Diana?
I would just add that it goes back to what you said originally, like we really need your stories and your experiences. And that's the only way we can create change. And anytime we make an intervention, it really needs to be tailored to the people who are actually using it. It shouldn't be just made by someone who is delivering the intervention. It should really be peer-led. And that's what is really important to us and is at the heart of this project.
Yes. So thank you guys for coming to hear our voices. Thank you for listening this week. I hope the popcorn was good if you got any. And it's probably a little juice, maybe not a water. I drink a lot of water. A little, Sprite or something. It's not as healthy, but to cool yourself down. And I hope you're enjoying yourself. Be safe. And hopefully you can follow us on social media. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.